What is up, guys? It's ya boy, Rick. You just don't stop, do ya, Guardian? Cacus here. Guys, thank you so much for stopping by. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button to support the channel, and let me know what you think my next intro name should be. That comment section is absolutely wild. Alright, today we are going to be discussing loot that is some of the rarest and the best throughout all of Destiny 2. Thankfully, this has really sprung up and become more available just this season within Season of the Splicer. But not a lot of people, I think, are prioritizing it as much as they should. Now, what the heck am I talking about? Well, let's start out right away with an example. So, I'm sure you've heard about a 5 out of 5 god roll, where you get everything you want on a single roll. Well, what I have here is actually an ignition code that's better than 5 out of 5. This is arguably a 7 out of 5. How is that possible? Let's take a look. So, firstly, I actually get the choice between blinding grenades and spike grenades. This is extremely important because both of these are technically involved in an ignition code god roll. Blinding grenades and the utility it provides, especially in higher level content, you can shoot a champion and have it be completely blinded, unable to attack you back for a considerable amount of time. With that being said, spike grenade is also what you want for maximum damage output, and if you're doing a lot of different activities, you would want spike grenades to actually kill the enemies rather than blinding grenades to inflict that blinding effect. So I actually can choose between both of those. That's very good, but you can technically get that on an existing normal ignition code. What makes this so special and this so rare is that this is one of the corrupted expunge mission drops, and therefore it has an extra final perk. So I have firstly slide shot, and I think that's best in slot here, and then I have thresh and or Vorpal weapon. So importantly, Vorpal weapon, I think that is part of the utter 5 out of 5 god roll. Being able to get either spike or blinding plus slide shot plus Vorpal, that is, in my opinion, an utter god roll, because the ignition code, especially grenade launchers right now, are so good at fighting champions, and therefore having that extra 15% extra damage from Vorpal is so darn good against them. And where an utter god roll is gonna matter the most is in high level content that involve champions. But with all of that being said, there's a lot of activities where thresh is not that good. If you're doing a normal Vanguard strike, it pretty much only comes up when you're actually fighting the final boss. The other 99% of that activity, another perk would be much better. And that's why I'm so excited and hyped about this role, is that I can switch off of Vorpal and onto Thresh for those types of activities. Now I want to make it clear, I posted this role on Twitter and had some people desperately trying to prove how smart they were, arguing with me. I don't actually necessarily think Thresh is 100% the best alternative perk you can get here. I actually do think Thresh is fairly underrated, and I'm happy to get it because I would actually want Thresh if I was running a build such as a Geomag Warlock, which I often run, that involves around its super. Like, I would want that over some alternatives such as Frenzy and Demolitionist and even Danger Close. But all of those perks I mentioned, any of them would be fantastic to combine in this slot to pair with Vorpal, because they all accomplish the same thing that I'm really trying to accomplish here, and that is being able to switch off of Vorpal when I don't need it and onto something else that has way more utility, is way more useful when you're fighting all of the normal adds where Vorpal doesn't even trigger. So I mean, I had an existing role with blinding grenades, slide shot, and Vorpal, but I'm just gonna delete it right now. That was an utter god roll. I don't need it because I have that same role stored within this ignition code. I actually deleted earlier so I wasn't able to get the gameplay, but had another roll of spike, slide shot, Vorpal weapon. I think I used that for a video. So I had like both of the separate rolls of this weapon, and now they're all combined into one. And it's that versatility that makes these extra perk weapons so darn good and just a step above your traditional Destiny 2 God Roll legendary weapon. However, the ignition code is not the only one out there. Remember, all of the different Splicer weapons can get that extra final perk if you get them out of the corrupted chest. So something like the Chroma Rush here, I've got the Feeding Frenzy Kill Clip Wombo combo, I've got Thresh as well if I want it. I could technically get between Kill Clip and Rampage and switch between those two damage increasing perks depending on what I'm doing. Another great example is the machine gun here, the Shattered Cipher. I have the utter PvE God Roll of Extended Mag perk plus Field Prep for just so much more ammo, plus Rampage, and those things combine to make a weapon that is unbelievable at ad clearing. But I've got another additional perk slot, and it's filled by Adrenaline Junkie. That's a very interesting one. If I'm going for the utter God Roll like I kind of have with the ignition code, I would rather have that as Surrounded. And then you can choose between Rampage if you're ad clearing, and then Surrounded for more single target damage. You're getting that Surrounded boost and you're funneling all your damage at one single guy. But to be perfectly honest, aside from the ignition code, most of the other Splicer weapons just have that additional perk slot that's nice to have. They're not necessarily two different roles combined into one. To find more of those, we have to actually look elsewhere to another activity that's offering multiple perk slot roles, and that is the Master Vault of Glass raid. The best example, and I think the second best kind of version of these weapons, with the first being that ignition code and the blinding plus spike plus vorpal plus one other. The next best thing is the Hezen Vengeance from the raid, the time lost version. Now, the time lost rolls are a little bit interesting because the bottom perks will always remain the same. So this rocket launcher will always spawn with Overflow plus Cluster Bomb. It's the top perks that are completely random. Thankfully, Overflow plus Cluster Bomb is an absolutely fantastic ad clearing roll. Like, holy crap, Overflow is amazing on a rocket launcher. This is actually the first time we've ever seen an Overflow rocket. I did a video on how good it can be, and just running over heavy ammo when you're empty and instantly getting 2 rounds in the magazine, especially combined with Cluster that's going to spread out your damage and decimate ads. Whew, that is a doozy of a roll to be running in something like Override. But then on the top, I also have auto-loading holster plus lasting impression for the maximum damage boost. And that is really the role you want in a boss DPS phase. Being able to shoot off your rocket, go to something else like your sniper rifle, and come back to the Hezen Vengeance. It's going to be reloaded and shoot another rocket, and because of lasting, every single one of those rockets is doing the most damage possible. You have an utter boss DPS God Roll rocket launcher and an utter ad clearing God Roll rocket launcher in one. You have both of those God Rolls built into one single weapon. And again, that versatility is insane. You can run the first part of an activity on ad clearing mode, and for the boss, switch to the boss DPS mode. Heck, you could even keep Overflow plus lasting. Just being able to switch to it from Cluster is really, really useful. Unfortunately, most of the time lost weapons, their bottom perks are complete trash. The only other weapon that's bottom perks are really quite good is the Fatebringer hand cannon. It has explosive payload plus Firefly as its guaranteed perks, and that is definitely considered a god roll, especially if you're doing lower level activities. And in my opinion, I would combine that with Frenzy in that upper perk slot, and then you can swap between Firefly and Frenzy. Frenzy is definitely going to be better in a high level activity, for example, Grandmasters, raids, etc., especially if you're using that hand cannon to stun champions. Like right now, overload hand cannon rounds are probably the best way to stun overload champions. and in a high level activity, you have a much higher chance of triggering Frenzy because you're in combat all the time, rather than, you're not necessarily popping off with headshots and triggering Firefly all the time. However, if I'm doing a lower level activity, override, strike, whatever, I do want Firefly because I am triggering it and it is so much more devastating when I do trigger it. So that's another kind of 2-in-1 role you guys can look forward to. So, you should absolutely be going after these multiple perk weapon drops. Bungie seems to be doing it more often, and it is very, very powerful. It is quite literally better than your traditional god roll. It's one step ahead in power due to the added versatility and customization. However, there is one downside, and that is you have to be really darn lucky to be getting these rolls. Not only do you have to get the actual god roll, which is pretty hard to get as we all know, but you've also got to get the perfect additional perks as well. Like, you don't just have to get blinding grenades, you have to get blinding grenades and spike grenades on the same roll. That's definitely hard to do. But if you can prioritize that type of loot, I think it's worth your time. Guys, that's it for the video. I hope you enjoyed and found this interesting. If you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickCacus. That is linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.